सुनो मेरे परम कृपालु। अर्ज सुनो मेरे परम कृपालु। परमेश्वर सारी Narayana
Examine for yourselves how long you have been listening to Swami's discourses. Years have gone by. To what extent have you gone spiritually? How far have you put into practice Swami's teachings? What is the use of merely listening? Is it not all a waste? You are listening, but not putting the teachings into practice. Hunger can be appeased only when the cooked food is eaten. Only the devotee who practices what he has learned is a true devotee.
On behalf of all of us here, I offer our collective pronouns at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Swami. Sai Ram. Wow. I think Brother Doug has trained us all well, that we all responded to the first Sai Ram, which also means you all had a great breakfast, right? Now that all had a great food for your bodies, how about some food for your soul? Yes? Yes. Speaking of soul, we have with us here today someone who has been feeding hungry souls from all over the world through this amazing serving platter called Soul Journeys. Brother Ted Henry. Somewhere I came across Brother Ted mentioning that his father wanted him to take over their family-owned hardware store. So I was picturing in my mind Brother Ted wearing all his, overall workman's suit and standing behind the counter and trying to sell hammers or pickaxes or whatnot. Pickaxes. Now you try to imagine that and you do know what I mean. That did not resonate with his personality. Fortunate for him and for us too, he decided to follow his heart, which was in TV journalism. He wasn't a Sai devotee back then, but we know now that Swami was preparing him to embark on his great mission of recording and sharing with others this amazing, breathtaking stories, spiritual stories from souls across this world. If not Ted, then who? If not back in 1997, when? That was the year when Brother Ted and his partner-in-chief, Jody Cleary, started this amazing adventure that we now know as Soul Journeys. I know we are all anxiously waiting to hear Brother Ted and from where he left off yesterday. So without further ado, brothers and sisters, it's my distinct honor and privilege to invite Brother Ted Henry.
Good morning. First things first. Remind me, my Lord. Remind me, my Lord. Remind us, O Lord, who we are. Just a week and a half ago, Jody and I were in Srinivas Raghavan's home, remembering when I recorded my soldier's interview with his guitar in hand, singing that song in his living room. And this place, this room, this workshop, everything about it, the side road, hopefully haunts me forever in the purest, most loving way. I'm rather speechless. I wanted to say a few things right up front, and I scribbled down some notes here. I want to extend my gratitude that I started with yesterday. I won't even mention Doug's name, I've talked about him too much. But his team, all of you, those of you who are Seva workers, those of you who are attendees, all of you have a role here, and you've treated me like royalty, but I've noticed you treat everyone like royalty. And that's the key in this side world. There's no place like coming to a retreat. There's no place like a budget hall, when the ceiling is lifted off the building, and that last budget in Spanish just was near and dear to my heart. And you fellas, you're more powerful than a locomotive. All of you are together more powerful than several locomotives. So thank you all very much. And while I'm thanking people, I want to thank everybody who put together the various elements of this program that I've been able to see. I'm sorry I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot. I was here for the play last night, the drama. I was here yesterday. I was so happy I was. It seems like I've been here 5 days already, but it feels like that. It's all been good. I can't remember the name of the program, and all the young people were here with their exhibits. And I saw Doug eyeing a couple of people, just a perennial smile on his face. So I thought, well, I'll just do this. Oh, better do this right now. I better start my clock running. I promised to give you back the moments extra I took yesterday. So my alarm will go off and remind me. Hopefully I won't overextend. But I use this, and I use this now frequently for interviews for soldiers. And it was a din in here. Most of you were here. The youngsters, the teenagers, the very, very young devotees. Such a joy to everyone's heart. And I thought I would give each of them if I could. Some of them were so busy I couldn't get to them, 2 or 3 people, and I'm really sorry. I thought I would do a soldier's interview with them, and I approached each booth and asked, who wants to be the spokesperson here? What's your name? Where are you from? Now, I want you to tell me what all of this is about in 1 minute or less. And they did. They were wonderful. And I thought, well, this will never work because this microphone picks up not only the youngsters, but everybody else, and nobody will be able to hear them. It worked out fine. Every one of the brief minute-long interviews is good, and I hope to put that up on the Soldier's real soon. And for those I did get a chance to interview people, because I couldn't get to them, I did do a video with them. So all of them should be on there. Am I leaving anything out? Sure I am. I'm leaving tons of things out. There is just so much that's been going on this one day. It could fill a week easily. Now we're into day 2. I so admired my side brother Fai's, his talk yesterday, and I also admired his singing. I could sing a budget for you, but you don't want to go there. And I want to give you a break and not sing any budgets. Yesterday's close. There you go. See, what they don't know is I've worked with microphones for 44 years. And when they offer me the opportunity to have what's called a lavalier mic here, it's stationary. This way I can use it any way I want. So I work the microphone. In broadcasting, you're taught to do that, to make a big point. So, where was it? It doesn't matter. I'm just so filled with love and joy about the people I met here. I've done 17, maybe 18 soldiers interviews since I landed on the ground here. I came in a parachute. I hope to do 17 or 18 more. I'm inviting each and every one of you to think hard. Do you have a story to share? That means there's about 1,000 stories to share here. Who is Sai Baba? How did you come to Sai Baba? How has Sai Baba transformed your life? And if you'd like to throw in a story or two about your experiences with Baba, just track me down. You can find me in the cafeteria at lunch and dinner. You can find me here at the workshops following here. You can find me wherever you find me, and I'll pull out one of my 2 cameras, which I carry with me all the time, and do a brief impromptu interview. And I've already got several lined up. I'm really looking forward to Doug's interview. And actually, I look forward to all of them. If I could tell you in an hour the experience I've had meeting people yesterday and the day before, you would love it. I'll try to condense it to a minute. I met a young man who's been sick for a long time. Won't tell you anything much more about that. You'll see it in the interview. Real serious issues. He's in college now. He's been a devotee because his parents have been a devotee. He's had many struggles. He's working here this year doing seva work. Last year his father took him to Prashanti. It upended his life. Baba wasn't there in the human form. It upended his life in all ways positive. Baba, there's no doubt, I get chills thinking of this right now. I don't know how to ask stories about something I don't know anything about. I don't know how to raise a topic about a topic I've never thought of before. But somewhere along the line, if you listen closely while listening to people talk, you'll pick up nuances of where they're really going or where they would like to go or what they're hinting at. And that's what I did yesterday with that young man, and it just blessed me to be able to be a friend to him because he's had so few in his life, and you'll hear that in his interview. And there's a young woman, I thought she was a young woman. I met her here. I just exchanged glances, Sairam, and I felt intuitively I'm supposed to talk to her. And we had a nice start to a nice interview, and all of a sudden I find out that, like all of us, she suffers. We all suffer. You can kid yourself all you want. You can cover that suffering with distractions until you're blue in the face, but there are times when we all suffer, and some suffer more. And I feel so badly about that. And she thought she'd try a Sai group. I think she said she was like a wallflower. She stood away from people so nobody would notice her. And then finally somebody came up and said, I'm a nurse. We're doing a project tomorrow. I want to come to the hospital. And she went with her. I'm hoping I'm getting this story right. You'll see it in the interview. I'm covering the highlights. And she goes to this hospital, and it's not where this nurse, Sai Baba devotee, works. It's where they go to visit people who are confined to a part of the hospital or in New York City. And there's no place else to put them. And she encountered a person who had been there for 30 years. She encountered a person who had been there for 36 years. With nobody ever to visit them, with a look that's just plastered on their face of defeat, dejection, and premature death, until Sai Baba devotees came to sing them, individually and collectively. It changed her life, completely changed her life. And now she's doing seva all the time, singing bhajans, just a great story. It took a little bit more than a minute to tell you about that. But I wanted to at least mention some of the experiences that I'm having here. Oh goodness, I've had more than I can relate here. And probably I should go on and talk about more things that are going on in this life. But did I thank the team enough? I don't think we could thank the team enough. My secret suspicion is that they have more fun working hard than we do attending the event. Because everybody I talk to says, this is the highlight of their year. This is the Prashanti of the United States. And I've been to a lot of workshops, I've been to a lot of this is the best. I would like to bring people who are friends of mine running similar operations around the country here. And I hear that some of them do come here just to see how you do it, just to find out what your secret is. And I'm not quite sure myself. Well, I think I've taken out my talk. the only talk I really spent a lot of time preparing was the one I gave yesterday. And I'm so grateful that it touched some people, that they came up to me and told me that it was meaningful in ways they didn't expect. So today, it's kind of funny because whenever I'm invited to give a talk, which isn't very often, but every year and a half or so, I'm privileged and feel honored and blessed to be able to try to put something together. Usually after the first talk, people say, well, tell us about your experiences now. And I said, no, you don't want to hear about my experiences. My experiences aren't much to talk about. And they say, no, we know that there are people with major Baba experiences, but we know you have some, so why don't you share them? So I try to accommodate them, as I'm going to try to do that with you right now by talking about some of the experiences, pretty small by comparison, it doesn't matter, their experiences with the divine, and the lessons I've extracted from them, which are very important. That's what I'm after. You know, my awakening with my curiosity, not awakening in the sense I talked about yesterday, started being a whole new trajectory in life. And I talk too much, I ask too many questions. Ask anybody I've talked to here already. Why are you asking that? It's the only speed I know is to inquire, hopefully with more than anything else. So I'm going to try to do that now, and first of all, by kicking this off by saying I would like to expand a little bit on one of the Baba quotes I recited to you yesterday that you know very well. It's perfectly fine to be born into a religion, but don't die in the same religion. Now that's pretty harsh. I know how much you love your faith. The same with me. It brought me to where I am. I go to church infrequently, not as much as I should, but there's no shoulds on the spiritual path. How's that for an instant thing? And I reflect as I would see everything that I was raised in, seeing in the church, hopefully through Baba's eyes, that we're all one. And it works for me. It works very, very well. But this quote from Baba, I had to think about it a long time. I don't want to die on my Catholic faith, he's saying. Well, you know, everything's a metaphor, so look for the hidden meaning there. I've given this a lot of thought. One day it came to me and had Baba's name written all over it. I saw Ted standing in a room, not unlike this one. It was a big room, maybe a little bit bigger. He had the usual four walls, a floor and a ceiling. In that room, there are 1,000 shelves, and on those 1,000 shelves were 1,000,000 books. And in all those books contain everything there is to know about the Catholic faith. 2,000 years of recorded history. I cannot go wrong staying in that room if I want to stay true to my faith. It is there. It is here. And then I saw on the way far end of the room a ladder up against the rear wall. And it led up to just a ladder leaning up against the wall, a trap door in the ceiling. I didn't know if this was the first of many floors in the building or what. Well, I'm curious, so I climbed the ladder, threw the door open, realized it was nighttime and this was the roof of the building. I stood on top of it feeling firmly rooted in my Catholic faith. The loving points of Catholicism are equal to the loving points of Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, you name it. So I felt secure, attached, rooted. And then I saw the expansive cosmos of additional spiritual thought. And I knew I was at the right place. And hence, I know I'm at the right place among you. Because I know you share this. That we're learning to become the one that Baba says we are. And that's how we do it. By keeping our minds open, standing on the roof, taking in the nectar of the universe, because it's there for our asking. Stay in the room, you'll be perfectly fine, but there's more to learn. There's more to see how you are built. And I was very grateful for that message that came to me, as they all do, from Swami. The message here for me was to remain open. Wednesday of this week, what's today? Sunday already. Maybe it's Thursday. I had posted the video you saw yesterday. I hope it played okay. The sound sometimes can be a bit of a problem because of the variation in the way it's recorded, all those 20 clips. But I posted it and I immediately got a lot of good response. The first response was a woman from Kazakhstan. We get letters like this from people who say, I'm an ardent follower of Soul Journeys. I love the video, whatever they say. This person said this, it really touched me. Another person said this in your videos, it changed my life. We're not allowed to practice other religions here or publicly to talk about them, or there's nothing like a side hop. I grew up anywhere within 3,000 miles of where I live, and the exposure they get by hearing other people's stories shared is very much appreciated. The second letter I get was from a man by the name of Tom. I better not say his last name. There's nothing wrong with what he says, but you're never quite sure of privacy issues, although it's there on Sojourns on the internet. And he says, "This is Tom from somewhere, I presume in America, maybe not. I'm so grateful to you and Jody for doing these interviews and posting them for the world to see. They are treasures and testimony of personal faith encounters with the modern incarnation of God." Now, you can debate the wording of that, but that's his feeling. After Swami dropped his body, I was very curious to see how his followers would continue their faith walk. Sojourns has given me ample examples of those who walk by faith, not by sight. And he says, and this is the part I underline, as a Christian, this is a Christian writing me, as a Christian, I so wish we had more information about the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Imagine interviews with his 12 apostles and the early followers. Well, I want to remind you, if I haven't already, that the brains behind Sojourns go to Jody Cleary. She's the one who nudged me to do this. She said, look, a guy in my shoes working in television news for all the years that I've worked in ends up doing about 10,000 interviews. That's nothing that's noteworthy. Many do many more. And she said one day, now that you've done you're on your way to doing 10,000 interviews, don't you think it's about time, use that as practice, don't you think it's about time to start interviewing people on a spiritual path? And of course I knew which spiritual path she was talking about. And one thing more, when you hear, I want to make sure I got my pages right here. I constantly reshuffled everything. One thing more, when you hear a new comment about your spiritual pursuit, always inquire within. I bring this up because I'm not sure that everybody in the room saw eye to eye with what I was saying in my message yesterday. It would be nice if you did. I respect if you didn't. That our job is to awaken to our one true selves in this lifetime. That's easier said than done, and I understand. Granted, I can speak this way because of 10 years from retirement. Semi-retirement, you might say. So I've been giving a lot more thought because I have the space and the time to do so. Some of the things I said yesterday might be even a greater challenge than I understand. We had a very spirited talk, Vise and me, yesterday with the young adults. I came to the point where I thought, in trying to answer some questions as forthrightly as I could, I may have alarmed some people, I don't know. We're talking about the social media, talking about how potent it is, how it's swaying the minds, not just of young people, but of everybody who participates. Who is it? He's here somewhere. He asked a question, he just blurted out the question. Well, I think, I'm trying to recall his exact words. Well, here it is, midday, and I've already picked up my phone and looked at it 36 times today. That's the story of the world now. We're looking at what other people think, other people say. We're looking at things that aren't too important. We're looking at things that are wrong, and we don't know they're wrong. We're all being influenced by that powerful animal called social media. Social media has a huge impact. And there are stories where people are changing their minds about issues as we go along. I mean, I can cite very quickly, and Baba helps me see these things more clearly, and that's why I'm spending an extra minute or two about this, especially in light of whatever I'm saying publicly. I want it to be understood in its proper light. We're constantly shifting our views. You stay rigid to Baba's followings, you won't go wrong. But when we're influenced by the world of changing thought, we get swept up into that. And there are hot button issues in my faith growing up. From abortion to gay rights to all the way back to slavery, all the way back to segregation. Slavery ended way before my time, but I interviewed a man who was a child of a man who was a slave. He was in his late 70s when I interviewed him, and his father was very old when he had him. If you did the math, it worked out. So I was like one person away from slavery. In fact, he was born into a slavery family. So all these issues see the light of day and people change their mind. I'm reading the book of Michelle Obama, and I recall how they came into the presidency with fairly conservative views on abortion, fairly conservative views on gay rights. These hot-button issues that they, like many others, because of the sweeping change of time, changed their minds about. So I just think it's important that we keep in mind, as I was trying to talk, probably didn't do a very good job of it yesterday to the Psy youths, about how we deal with these issues as Baba people. It's one thing to say as a Christian, follow the 10 Commandments. It's one thing to say as a devotee, follow the words of Baba. But there's lots of need for interpretation because of the changing ways we see things. One quick Psy story about that. I won't say his name. It's from a respected Psy adult, a physician at one of Baba's super specialty hospitals, who said in an interview, you could go look for it and find out exactly what his words were, that he talked with a fellow who was very conflicted about what he had done in his life, and he went to Baba, and this is according to the person who's telling me the story in Soul Journeys. And Baba, in his presence, said to this man, "Oh, you're worried about that which you've done? Oh, you're worried with that you've done? Oh, you're worried about that, the way you treated people? Oh, you're worried about that which you've done at work that might not have been whatever? Don't worry about it, for I have willed it. Do not worry about it, for I have willed it." Has anybody else heard that? I don't know if I can vouch for that or not, and I apologize ahead of time if it's incorrect. But that adds a lot to the game. What it tells me most of all is the need to inquire. And it goes this way. Number one, inquire directly to Baba. Doesn't matter how many years he's been out of his physical form. Number two, inquire within. Number three, and a distant number three, is to inquire in other people. Be them your father, be them your best friend. And that's the social media is causing us to have to do that. Driving over here today with Chet, who's been such a wonderful host. His son, Soham. Probably some of you know who Soham is. I think he coined this phrase. It's nice to be cool. That's what the internet's all about. Follow us, we'll make you cool. It's nice to be cool. But it's also cool to be nice. It's very cool to be nice. I'm so glad I got that. And when it comes to making the right decisions, you know, I'm a reporter, so I never miss a beat when it's an important subject. Chet's mother-in-law's in the back seat. We're having a good drive over here this morning. I think we scared Doug because I arrived a couple of minutes later than I should have, but I got here. I would have walked. We couldn't make it because of the car. And Chet says something else about his father. He told me some wonderful stories about his father, Gulab. And his father reminded him, you know what, son? You never make the right decision. Sometimes we do. I think he never said never, but those were his words. You never make the right decision. There's so much to consider. Rather, it's what you put into it, what you put into the follow-up of that decision that will help you to correct yourself, to correct the situation. Just a great way to go through the rest of my life, and I'm very grateful for that. On Baba right now, and I want to keep my comments as much as I can to our divine God. I've seen Baba be a stern disciplinarian to people. I've seen Baba give them what my boss used to give me when I wanted a raise, the cone of silence. No eyes, no glance, no words, nothing. You're isolated there. Baba did that to people I know, gave them a cone of silence. Baba's never seen me as a wise person. I think he used to see me as not being childish, but childlike. As others have said that about me, I'm not sure if that's an insult or a compliment. And he would prove it to me by the way he would play with me in our interactions. I'll give you two brief examples. He always felt like he was treating me like his pet cocker spaniel. Puppy. Running all over the place. And once he was directly in front of me, because again, I'm a reporter. I know how to get in front of the newsmaker, so to speak. I'm at his feet. I'm not at all comfortable. I'm scrunched up with people right behind me. I'm sort of between being on my rear end and my knees, and I'm already feeling a little sore, but I know this is going to be a while. And as he's glancing over to a young woman, talking to her, I take my hand and surreptitiously put it on his knee. It's right there. And he doesn't say anything. A couple of minutes later, he's talking to a gent, and he puts his hand on my hand, on his knee. A couple of minutes later, I put my other hand. A couple of minutes later, he puts his other hand. We got this pancake effect of all these hands on his knee. And it was an especially long interview, maybe over an hour, a little bit. And finally he gets up and leaves. I cannot stand up. My feet, my legs, my ankles are completely paralyzed. I could barely feel it by pinching them. You know, I'm a big guy, and you can't press a person like that long. But I did, and it's one of the great memories he's left me with. Another one was, Jody, this is one of Jody's favorites. I was talking too much, asking too many questions in another interview. And after a while, he looks very serious and reaches over to the table behind him, pulls a sheet of paper, and he pulls a pencil, puts it into my hands. Write? Write what, Baba? Write? Give me your contact information. Tell me something about yourself. Just write. So I feel really special. Jody told me later, he was treating you like a child who talks too much. He was giving you a coloring book and a box of crayons. And I said, no, he wasn't. He wants to send me something. He's going to send me a gift, a Baba present. And we walked out of the interview room and she's laughing at me. And I said, how do you know that? How do you know he's treating me like a child? We get back to our flat, which is Roundhouse 1. And all of a sudden, a huge feeling of fright comes over me. I said, no, really, I'm serious about this. He's sending us something, and I just thought of what I omitted on that contact page of information. I'll never get it. I forgot to put my zip code. And I never received a present from Sai Baba. So I'm not quite sure what the lesson is there. I think I wrote down what it might be. Nope, no lesson. Be patient, maybe. But he's taught that to me many times. On another occasion, I was asking questions of Baba, and he was always so generous to me. He never, except for that one time I mentioned yesterday, and even then he was generous to a fault. He said, more questions. And I think I'm sort of like the impromptu entertainment for a minute or two during the times I had a chance to see him. So a question now about who I am really directly involving Sai Baba. That's the big overarching question in my life. Why am I here? Who am I? What is it all about? On my very first trip to see Sai Baba, I go there by myself. By the way, I stopped in Talheim, a small village in the middle of Germany, before going over there to meet with somebody I read about in the Peace Corps and I wanted to see. This is before I knew I was going to really be a Sai Baba devotee, and I was hoping I would find out more about that on my trip to see Sai Baba. So I landed in Frankfurt, rented a car, drove to Talheim, and had darshan for 2 days, with a divine soul named Mother Mira. Any of you have any idea who Mother Mira is? She lives in Germany. She doesn't talk. You can't quarrel with her views. She doesn't express any. It's the most interesting darshan I've ever attended. There are exactly 200 chairs in her room. There's no icons. There's no flowers. There's no photographs. There's no darshan. There's no discourse. There's nothing. She blesses you. She doesn't hug you, she touches your head. Mother Mira, and she lives in Germany. And I read about her in several books when I was in the Peace Corps, and I wanted to see her since I was going to see Sai Baba. And at that time, even though she never talked, and still really doesn't talk, her assistant, Lakshmi Ma, I think was her name, said, Mother Mira continues to take phone calls on Thursday afternoons at 2 o'clock. If you call and ask a question, she'll be there. I'll answer the phone and she'll tell me the answer. So I called her, found out how to use a German payphone, and I called her and I said, Mother Mira, thank you for allowing me to come to your darshan. My name is Ted. I'm going to hop an airplane real soon and go to India so I can travel to Puttaparthi and enter Prashanti Nilayam to see Sai. Before I even had a chance to say Sai Baba, I could hear her say in English to Adi Lakshmi Ma, go, he is God. And what a way to begin your journey to see Sai Baba. I knew less about Sai Baba than I know about most of the people here at that time. What I knew was graciously given to me by Jody and the other people I was meeting with. I was really very much on my own, and I got to see Sai Baba. And while I'm there, and everything is brand new to me. And people I would talk to at work said, "You're going to go see this guru in India by yourself? Is it a cult? What is it? You're going to get sick. You're going to hate that you traveled that far. It's a difficult flight, and all this stuff." And they persuaded me to think not positively about this, but I still wanted to go. Well, they were absolutely wrong. I loved every minute of it. Even when I was sick 3 times, I loved every minute of it. I learned to develop the knack of laughing when I'm sick, the way Westerners get sick when they go to India sometimes. And that helped me a whole lot. And Jody gave me the name of one person to meet, since I didn't know a living person in the ashram. First of all, I get out of a taxi just in time for the late afternoon darshan to end, and I hear what's called arti, what's called to a guy like me who never heard about arti. Taxi driver says, go, Papa's leaving, it's all over, go. So I took my bag, and I got out of the car, ran down, ran into the mail centers, go through the metal detector, and I'm running down to catch a glimpse of him before he's going, in my sandals, carrying my bag, my suitcase. About 19 saber dolls come rushing up to me and escorting me back out of the building. Baba lingers for a minute or two to talk to the women. On his way out, I get back in and I get to see the divine form. Baba plays with me in many different ways. And he did this way that I'm leading up to. So Jody gives me the name of one devotee to visit. How many here know the name of Jit Agrawal? Okay, 1. 2. Jit Agrawal is a very special person. He's got a PhD in science, either from Oxford or Cambridge, one or the other. He's lived in England. His wife, Aim, and Jit are wonderful people. We've developed a great friendship with them. I wish I could remember the block they live in, and they're still there every day working on something called vibrionics. Vibrionics, who knows what that is? Vibrionics, well, look at that. That's good. That's very good. Susan, my friend who teaches it here in America, will be very happy to know so many people who are aware of vibrionics. It's a healing modem, let's say, with sugar pills, with vibrations. I'm sure I'm doing it a great injustice, and she would point out that to me because she knows it so well. But let me just say that the reason why I even mention him and mention it is because Jit and Haim doing this work are the only people permitted by Baba himself to be inside the ashram doing such work for healing for others. It's 100% seva. And they have chapters all over the world. And they train people all the time for free. So, Vibrionics in Prashanti, Jit Agrawal. And so, Jody really likes both of them a lot and gives me his name. He says, he would make a good interview. So I tracked down Jit. I'm a little unsure of myself. I'm not sure what the protocol is. And I walk in, and he couldn't have been nicer. And Haim got me some tea and something to eat. And I say, I'm here to meet you, and my secondary reason is I do this thing called Sojourn's Interviews. I'd like to interview you. It's just really getting started. He said, that sounds delightful. Be happy to. You could interview my wife and me, that would be great. Good, I'll come back tomorrow. Or I said, I could do it now. And he said, no. I've got to ask him first if it's okay. And I said, okay, who's him? if it's okay that you interview me. And I said, well, you're going to go to your bedroom and your puja is and ask him in your heart. Oh, no. I'm going to ask him at Darshan. How are you going to ask Sai Baba at Darshan if Ted from America can interview you? Well, it passes me twice a day on the veranda. So, come back tomorrow. Bring your camera. So I come back tomorrow, my camera, really expecting my very first interview with soldiers in Prashanti. And he looks at me and he smiles and he says, we're on. And I said, well, tell me about it. Baba actually said yes? And he said, well, yeah. I said, Baba came by and he stopped and I handed him this note. On it it read, Baba, Ted from America, journalist, here to interview me with your blessings. Pranams. And Baba picks it up and reads it, looks up at Chit, reads it again, looks up at Chit. Who's Ted? Who's Ted? There's the question of a lifetime. And I think he meant it that way. I think he saw me standing here today, 21, 22 years later, still inquire. Well, there is no Ted, is what I now know. That would be my truthful, genuine, honest answer. There is the I am. There is the I am. For you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. The rest of you have to wait a little longer. And he tears it in two. Who's Ted? And then he does this. Shh. Now, do you all know what that means? You're mostly of Indian extraction. Of course you know what that means. Jit interpreted that as a yes. Next day comes, I'm over there with my camera gear. I got bad news for you, Ted. The fellow sitting next to me said, that was a no. That was a no. I'm a little puppy dog being gently pulled up by the tail 3 feet from time to time to squirm in the air. And I don't think I would like it any more differently than that. To butcher the English a little bit. So that was a real treat. And Jody, I said, oh, I'm very, very happy I had the presence of mind to say, do you have that note? Well, yeah. I mean, I was going to throw it away, but here if you want it. A note with my name on it, torn by Baba. Good or bad, I'll take it. And I'm very grateful for that. Baba made a big impression on me when he made this ring. There's a brief story to it, as I alluded yesterday. My first interview with him, he takes me into, this is the second time I went to see him, takes me into the interview room, and he didn't make it there. Didn't give me any clue he was going to make it there. He had a lot to tell me, and some of which I can share with you now that I'm retired. He said, after he hit me 3 times hard, and 3 times hard there, he said, good boy, good person, good heart. And I asked him about my children. I will take care of your children, and I'm hoping that continues to be true. And he said, you have a lot to be concerned about. Many are jealous of you. I don't think he used the word fear. Be careful. I get along pretty well with people. But I'm at the top of my profession in a very competitive business, one of the world's most competitive. And there's always clever people aspiring to be there to replace me, maybe before I'm ready to be replaced. But I'm naive to a fault, and I don't think of that. And I think what he was doing was preparing me for what was to happen next. So we leave the interview room, we come out, and he sits me down right in front of him, just like I am his puppy dog, and he's going to do a trick with me now. He was in there teaching me a trick. And he looks at everybody else, he said, ready? Ready? Ready for what, Papa? And he says, what do you want? And he's looking at me. I said, well, I've heard people give the answer that I'm about to give you. I went, of course, I want liberation. I want moksha. No. What do you want? And I said, I want to be a good Baba devotee and serve the world however I can, and you can tell me what what I should do, and I would gladly do it. I said something to that extent. No, 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 no. Material thing, what do you want? I wasn't doing my role very well. And I was looking at my wedding ring, and I said, a ring, Baba. And I'm right under him, and he goes like this, and this ring comes out, and it's this one, and it's you know, I get scared. I'm sure it's too small. It's never going to fit on my finger. I'm going to be accused of embarrassing Baba by allowing him to try to put this small ring on my big finger, and I push his arm away. Oh, how many years in hell will I live there? That's I might be the only person on the face of the earth who rejected his gift, not out of not wanting it. I didn't want to embarrass him. Well, he has a stronger push, and he pushed my arm back. And he takes this ring and shows it to everyone. He says, "Big ring for a big boy." And he puts it around. It was, I mean, you know, I've been given way too much excitement. I've got a high blood pressure, and I got to watch being around Baba because he can activate it very, very quickly. So, to me, that ring means faith, where, with respect, it is to protect the men. I think is one of the more popular reasons why so many men have green rings. And yet, Baba was the first to bring to me in words spoken out loud something I had already known about myself, that I'm a doubting Thomas. How many devotees, especially from the West, remained doubting Thomases for many years. And that's where I was too. And he said, be confident. This ring will protect you. And we left and we went home. And about a year later, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, we ended up in New York City. It was a cold winter day, and we're walking downtown, and I spot the headquarters of what's called the Gemological Society of America. It's at 47 and Broadway, 47th Street and Broadway, just off Broadway, half a block. Jody, let's go in and see what this is. Doubting Thomas. We go in there, and the woman at the stand says, I notice you have a very interesting ring there. And I said, well, can you tell me what it is without having to pay you $1,000? And she said, well, I think I can. It shouldn't be too difficult. We got a pretty good machine here. And she said, I can tell you right off the bat, it's a 24 karat gold, so you have good taste wherever you bought this. And you have a lot of money. And she said, the stone's very curious, though. And she puts it under her little spectrometer, whatever it is, and she comes back and scratches her head figuratively and says, well, I can only tell you what it's not. And I had it written here somewhere. I forget where I've got it now. You would know the words much better than I do. She says it's not a chrome diopside. It's not a peridot. Some places it's called peridot. It's not an emerald. It's not jade. It's not plastic. It's not glass. I don't know where this came from. That's from out of this world somewhere. You know, I don't know where this ring came from. And I said, that's all I want to know. There are a lot of stories that circulate around the world about where these rings come from. I don't care how it got to me. I'm forever grateful. And you can count on me to tell you that there's one story that actually happened from the Gemological Society of America, that this is out of this world. Oh, how have I worked at developing a greater affection for the notion that we all have to deepen our own self-inquiry. That's a strange title for a topic. But it's all from Baba. And there's some Baba friends of mine who invited me to go camping. This is only about 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. I'd never been camping in my life. We're going to drive from Cleveland out of the hills of West Virginia. You'll love it. I got a tent for you, I got a sleeping bag, you know, got no little repellent in case the bears come. You're going to be fine. Well, what do you do when you go camping? You'll see. So we go down there and we get out of the car, put the tent up, get the sleeping bags in our 3 tents. Bob Burrows, Dave, really great devotees. We go hiking, all right? expected that. We come back and rest, sort of expected that. We start a campfire. That was fun. We had our little makeshift dinners. That was interesting. It's a beautiful night. And still early. Now what do you do when you're out camping? I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I was really curious to know why people camp other than the pleasure of being out in nature, which is fun. A lot of work, but it's fun. And not very comfortable, but it's fun. I've done it once only. And Bob Burrows, who's been on a trip to Seaside Bible with me and his wife Marianne, he pulls this tiny book out of his pocket and he just opens it at random. It's like a prayer book. I mean, what's he going to do? He says, let me just go at random on this randomly selected page in this random paragraph and I'll read it out loud to you. There's something about Bob. We all know Bob, so that didn't really surprise me. And then he turns to me and says, Ted, what does this mean to you? What? This is your book, Bob. You're asking me. Because I was very unfamiliar with study circles and I was very unfamiliar with inquiry. No, well, I'm just kidding. You know, what does it mean to you? So I uttered something. Dave, what does it mean to you? Dave did a much better job than I did. And then he told us what it meant to him. And then he said, here, Ted, you open the book and do the same thing. 2.5 hours later, we went to bed. That was self-inquiry. That was a study circle. That was the value that can be achieved from a study circle. If you choose to acquire the taste, I know many people don't want to. It's not part of a culture, not part of a custom. But it's what I've learned the most in life, the most meaningful way for me to learn. Might not be for everybody, I understand that. But I came into retirement, and before I did, I thought, I want to do this again, but I don't want to go camping. So I started what I call the men's quote lunch group. Why was it called the men's quote lunch group? Because I couldn't get into any women's study groups in town because they only had women there. And to be a little humorous, but also to be serious, I said, I want to start a men's study group. I don't know what's right or wrong about that, but I do know that there's safety in the same gender, so women probably feel more secure, and I know we as men feel secure. And we had a great study circle. It'll be 6 to 8 of us meet at the Longhorn Steakhouse for lunch, and we'd order this little vegetable soup, toasted cheese sandwich, and iced tea, $6 for lunch every time we'd meet. And I would say the rules are simple: bring 3 quotes. You know, I'm going to bring 3 Sai Baba quotes, bring 3 quotes, and when it's appropriate, we'll go around and have people read their quotes and we'll discuss them. It got to be so popular, people didn't even wait till they took their coats off to sit down, or before the waiter came and took our orders. We would start our quotes, and it would go all the way through for 2.5 hours. We come to San Diego, California. I joined the Psi Center there, meet some wonderful people who are lasting Psi friends of mine, who know Baba very, very well. I said, do you want to meet someday and have a quote group? What's a quote group? And I explained it to them. It's really a wonderful way of self-inquiry. It's a wonderful way to get to know one another. It's an even more wonderful way to get to know yourself. It's why I do these talks. Maybe I mentioned it to you already. People say, well, you have a stump speech, Ted. You have the same talk you give every time you go out. Well, it's now become the same topic, but it's in no way, shape, or form the same talk, because we all grow. This is a measurement of our own personal growth. Call it a tea group, a chai group, a coffee group. But if you ever have the inclination to be in a group like this, I guarantee you the rewards are multitudinous. And I have one thing further to say, because I'm a pro when it comes to study circles, conventions, congregations, meetings, workshops. Don't ever think it's not a success if only a handful of people come. The smaller the group, the more open you are, and the more free you are to speak your heart. Big groups serve their purpose. They're wonderful. When it's a tiny group, they serve even more of a purpose. So I hope that registers somehow. I'm going to take a check at my time and find out where I am. So I'm in Prashanti, getting back to that. I really, oh my goodness. I'm up to page 6 of 18 pages. We got 12 minutes left. Well, I set my clock for an hour so I can have an extra 15 minutes. I'm in Prashanti, and I had lots of movement within Prashanti movement, meaning different places to see Baba from. And they're not quite sure what to make of me. I do these sojourns, and Chakravarti likes me, therefore I must be important, but it's not that important. So let's put him in a middle level VIP area on the floor. Not on the veranda, but on the floor. So I'm there, and here are all the worker bees who work in the ashram, all these wonderful Indian men, many of whom I know. They're sitting on this side of the aisle. I'm going to sit on the other side of the aisle. I'm alone sitting there. I'll really have Baba. And I did. From the back of his head, the car would come and he would come up. On the far side of the men's side, he'd go up through the mandir, and then when he would leave, he'd just go to his home after he had his interviews and whatnot. And so every day I was there, he came twice a day in his car, and I saw the back of his head. He was looking out the window to the side. And I thought, you know, I play the odds. I'm not a gambler, but I'll bet you one day he comes the other direction, and he did. And I'm ready for him. I got my ever-present letter ready for him. The doubting Thomas with his letter. And so he comes in the other way, stays, talks to the people, has his interviews, and comes out this way. So he's on my side, and the window's down, and I'm alone. Wow! I got my letter like this. The car stops, he takes it, and I'm a reporter. So what does a reporter do? He writes his headlines after he writes his story. My letter is in the envelope. I always put a headline on the envelope. Baba, please, another sign of your divinity, please. He's taking it, I'm watching him look at the letter as he's driving away. I want him to give me another sign of his divinity. How audacious, how brazen. And I know he still loves me. He loves everybody. So I'm so excited. It's Christmas time. I leave the darshan hall. I'm looking for Jody to tell her the good news. He took my letter. He's going to give me another sign of his divinity. She's somewhere having tea with somebody, and I'm happy for her. I go back to the house that we're using, one of the double houses. It's really nice. A friend of ours allowed us to stay there when they weren't there. And they have a huge portrait of Baba hanging over right in front of the couch. And they have what's called a satellite radio. You probably know what those are. And they pick up great stations. And it's permanently tuned to an international classical music station because this man is a doctor who loves classical music. Never a song, never lyrics, never words. 1,000% classical music. And I listen to it every night. So I'm sitting there waiting for Jody to come back, looking at Baba, a big smile on my face. I turn the radio on, just, why not be comfortable with some classical music? And it's just dead air. So I turn it on, turn up a little bit. Doesn't work today, okay. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, the music starts playing. It's not classical music. It's not an instrumental. It's a song with words in it in English. It's a Christmas carol. And as if in answer to my inquiry to Sai Baba, a half an hour earlier, another sign of your divinity, please, Baba. I hear these words. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. He answered me. It was a Christmas carol on a classical music station. After that song played, back to true form, it was all classical music. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. The very first words out of my mouth then in 2008 on Christmas Day when I spoke in his presence. So he's here. He's a trickster. He plays games. He loves to toy with us. But my God, is he on our wavelength, as if you should ever have any doubt. I want to tell you about a man I met there. Baba, of course, is why everybody goes there. Mr. Chakravarti was the second person we met of any importance or significance. Then we met a realized soul who took me under his wing for some reason, unbeknownst to me. Some of you may know him, some of you may have been students under him. His name is Lakshmi Narasimham, the former registrar of the university. Anybody know Lakshmi? Okay, there are too many Baba students here. One person in this whole room knows Lakshmi Narasimha. No wonder you don't know him, because he's serene. The only thing you note about his is his smile that goes like this, and the grace with which he holds himself, and the grace with which he walks. And oh yes, he also has power. He's been working with Baba and had miracles with Baba, and I think he went into permanent silence. He came up to me, first thing I meet him, puts his arm under my arm, and we go waltzing around in circles while we're meeting one another and talking. And ever since then, that's how he would see me and greet me. And he would allow Jody and I to come up to the main education building on the hill, whatever he was doing, because I couldn't get through to him very often. And say, well, we'll be up sometime today. He would drop what he's doing and come upstairs to the second floor, big conference room with Baba's big chair at the end of it, and we'd talk for an hour or more. He'd have coffee and cookies come in. And then he started teaching us Kriya Yoga. Lakshmi, where did you learn Kriya Yoga from? Oh, Baba. How did Baba teach you Kriya? Oh, for a number of consecutive nights, he came in my dream and he continued to teach me until I got it down pat. This is a quiet, silent saint of a man who's fully awakened, I would say. Fully. Teaching us yoga. And then, next thing I know, about a month later, maybe it's the next trip, all of a sudden he says, how long have you been coming to Prashanti, Ted? This many years. Well, you sit out there wherever you can find a seat? Yeah. Well, don't you think you ought to be sitting on the veranda? No. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a worker bee here. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professor. I'm not a visiting VIP. No, you should be there. You do good work. You know, you and Jody do real good work. And Jody should be there too. Of course, that would never happen in that time frame. Women should be there, but women are better than men, so they don't have to be there. And he took me to the main Sevadal, and this guy looked at me really strangely. Are you a doctor? Are you an educator? Are you a professor? No, none of the above. And Lakshmi says, I want him to sit here. Find a spot here. Happens to be where the professors sit. I made lots of friends. And he sat me in a little colored square in the floor. The one where you put the flowers and things. And I made sure every day I sat there. And one of the fears of my life was when somebody was going to look suspiciously at me and come up and say, as they would often do, your good name, sir. Why are you here? And they were big and foreboding and very well educated. And I said, I could not say Lakshmi Narasimha in a way that anybody would understand it. You know, it blurted out, anglicized, and nobody could understand who it was who gave me permission. And finally, Lakshmi got onto that, and he came down and he said, his name is Ted, and he sits here. And it never was a problem again. But it did trigger a little bit the fear in me. When I say fear, I want you to know that fear is an issue. I'm guessing in all of us, maybe it's a slight exaggeration. In my lifetime, being raised the way I was, I had a lot of fear. And most people's fear is there, some people's fear is there. My fear, historically, is there. Sometimes there. I can't tell you why. I fool people. I act as if I don't have any. Fake it till you make it. Works. But I had fear. I had fear there. I've had fear with other examples in my life that are too boring to share with you right now. But one of the things in my walk with Baba that happens is very strange. Is on the day of Mahasamadhi, on Easter Sunday. I didn't put this together until 2 or 3 days later. I noticed something strange that happened. My fear was taken away from me. And when I say my fear, I want to say not 100%, but it came down from there to about an inch off the floor, maybe 2 inches. I don't know why. I didn't notice it at first. I just had an extra step as I walked, lightness in my step. And to this day, I can see that that's true. Yes, things happen. Things cause us fear all the time. Think of your children. Think of your grandchildren. Think of your job. Think of your coworkers. Just think of anything. Think of how you assess yourself. And fear somewhere in that spectrum of feelings and emotions. And I'm so grateful that for the most part that's been removed from me. It's one less obstacle one more way in which we can all grow, and I hope it happens for everybody. I met the king of fear once, Jack Hawley. Who knows Jack Hawley? He's been to Seaside Baba 34 years in a row. He and Louise, his wife, would spend 6 months in California and 6 months in Prashanti every year consecutively. You probably never heard of it because it's not intended for you, but he wrote a wonderful book. It's world famous. A guide to the Western, or a guide for Westerners to the Bhagavad Gita. He wrote that book. It's very popular among those who are introduced to the Gita for the first time. And he's a great guy, and I interviewed him. And one of the questions I asked him was, so you're on the veranda, and Baba comes to you often, you and Louise were in his house every night after dinner to meet and greet and talk with Baba and hear his stories and hear his lectures. Went on for a long, long time. You got a pretty good life. He says, oh, but it's not always been that way. I've had fear. And I said, well, everybody has fear. He said, no, I had fear, but it's gone. And I said, I want to pick up on that last statement. You say it's gone? No, it's gone. It's completely gone. And I said, well, I'm going to challenge you on that. What about fear of Louise getting ill? No. I've had concerns like that that have been lifted by Baba and Louise too. Well, you've got 7 or 8 kids. What about one of those kids being in an accident and her life is in peril or his life is in danger? No, I'm fully prepared for any eventuality like that, and I would feel something, but it would not be fear. We're all provided for. We're all taken care of. Well, what about Louise's, I don't want to say this in her presence, but, and she wasn't there, well, maybe she was. What about if she passes on before you? And, no, I wasn't given a second thought. Jack, what about a nuclear holocaust? What about the world going up in flames? And you don't get what I'm trying to say. There is no fear. There is no need to fear when you know Baba. There is no fear. If you have fear, you need to step a step closer to Baba. He will remove it from you. So, I'm very, very grateful to have all of you as friends in my life, and I'm also very grateful to have the people who are not Sai devotees in my life. Jody and I both came to Sai. A long, circuitous route for me started in 1989. Well, thank you. That's my little reminder. I've got 10 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go. And I'll just wrap up with two items. This one and then the next one is about soldiers. We came a circuitous route without living in the same town, not knowing we were on similar routes, called A Course in Miracles. I think I asked how many people are familiar with that. Not too many people in the world are. Most Westerners don't know about it, but they, if anybody would, because those from India, there's no need to know about it because its primary purpose is to bring non-duality to the West. Advaita, Vedanta. It's about 1,200 pages long. Came into being in the mid-60s. I got on board with it. I loved it. And on my first and second trips to India, I took the book with me because I was told that it's a very popular book at that time. This would be, whenever it was, the late 90s, in Prashanti, Nilayam. The people there had study circles, and they read from it. And so I took it, and I found study circles, and I read from it. And I got called in for an interview on 2 occasions. And because I wasn't sure I heard the answer right the first time, I asked Baba a second time. 2 times I asked Baba, did you write A Course in Miracles? The book that brings moksha, the striving for liberation, non-duality to the world of the Westerners? Did you write that? Yes. And he said it the second time on the second visit to his interview room. But this time he added one more line, or a few more words. Yes, the best book I've ever written. And I'm sure he was probably a little tongue-in-cheek because he's written every book in the world, but he really meant it. And the people who were with me included Baba devotees who were teachers of the Course in Miracles, who were long-time participants, as I was. And, you know, he's just there for us. Bring everything to him, whether he's in his physical form or not. He answers. He wants you to know that you are Baba. So if you get the answer from Baba, count on the fact that you're halfway home. You're getting the answer from your higher self, from your I am God existence. Well, what I want to do now is skip the next... I was wrong, I have 21 pages. Skip the next 11 pages of my notes and go to my closing summation, which is not a commercial, it's a plea to you. Sojourns, Jody's idea to me that I'm very grateful for, has kept me busy in my 10 years of retirement. It kept me busy for the last 12 years of my work. Sometimes I spent more time on Sojourns than I did on covering the news. But this is the greatest news of all. I feel a strong need to ask people here to help me capture the stories of devotees who actually got to see Sai Baba. While I'm here, as I've told you before, I want to interview as many people as I can to keep it going, to keep it going, to keep it going. But I've thought of this just recently in light of the fact that this is what you need. It's just all you need, a smartphone that has a camera on it. And if you're at all interested, I'll tell you why I want you to be interested. I'll send you a little list of 6, like a recipe, things to do. Make sure the light's on the face, not coming from the back. Make sure you either have a microphone on them or that you're up close enough that the external microphone picks up the interview. Make sure you put it on a tripod. You can buy one for $18 at Amazon, $25 if you want a nice one. And those basics are about all you need. Put it as close to the person as possible. You don't so that they fill the screen rather than way back, as a lot of people think is better. I want to show the whole background. No, this is content-driven. People's stories about Baba is what you want. You don't want them to be distracted by the flowers and the lights in the background. In my business, everything is about setting up a beautiful picture for interviews. But I don't do that. And so if you want, I'll be happy to send you that. All you need to do is send me an email. I'm here for another day and a half, I think. I would love to be able to interview as many people as possible. And I'll tell you more about why I want you to do this, which is briefly the reason why I do it. Jody has convinced me when she thought of this idea. Look, you're interviewing the modern day apostles. You're interviewing the saints who have lived with Sai Baba. They're not going to be here much longer. And when she told me this the first time, Baba's not going to be here much longer in physical form. Record these stories. See them as testimonies to God. See them as the New Testament of love all, serve all, of help ever, hurt never. And get the words from the people who have been with Baba. All the more better if they've had interviews with Baba. All the more better if they've had experiences, good or not good, with Baba. And all is just as well if they've only known of Baba while Baba was alive. So you can do that. There's no Sai youth here that I see. Raise your hand if you're a Sai youth, because maybe I'm missing one. But you're out doing something else. I'll try to remind them if I should have done that yesterday. But you don't have to be a Sai youth. Most people in this room have a cell phone. I can teach you with a letter that gives you 6 steps to follow in 10 minutes how to do an acceptable job of recording your own stories back and forth, husband and wife, wife and husband, your neighbor, your friends, your people who you know who are at the study circles, who are at the Bhajans, who are at the Sai centers. And then, without too much trouble, I can also teach you how to send those to me over the internet if you choose, or any other way. And what I'll do, I'll edit them if they require editing. I'll package them in a way that, is an attractive way to see a video of somebody being interviewed from Sai Baba, who was alive during Sai Baba, and I'll put it on Sojourns. I really will. So, heed that recommendation, because there's many stories in this room that should be captured. Every single person I've been introduced to, without exception, has a worthy story about Sai Baba. At least one. And the questions to answer and to pose to these people, I've repeated this many times, but I'll remind myself to repeat it one more time. They're very basic. Number one, how were you brought to Sai Baba? Oh, I'm a 5th generation Sai Baba devotee. None of you can be that. But others I met last night, the woman whose baby is here, who's now 10 days old. Yesterday, the baby girl, Saisha, was 9 days old. She said, no, it wasn't my grandmother, it was my great-grandmother. I'm 4th generation Baba. I said, your child's a 5th generation Baba. So, if you're 1st generation Baba, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, Please just listen to my words. All you need to do is ask the obvious questions. Joe, thanks for sitting down. Ramesh, thanks for sitting down. I'm going to start off by asking you, what brought you to Sai Baba? I was born into a Baba family, or some other story. And how has Baba transformed your life? Well, that's a story in itself for each of us individually. And then, who is Sai Baba? Doesn't matter that he's gone from his physical form. Ask the question anyway. There's 1,000 answers when 1,000 people are asked that question. And if you care to, just say, do you have any other Baba stories you'd like to share with us? That's the interview. It's that simple. So, my time is up, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't tell you how moved I am. Thanks for thinking of me, and thanks for inviting me. And JJJ, sign off.
Wasn't that a great way to start our morning? Thank you, Brother Ted, for filling the Sunday morning with inspiration and with so much laughter. We're actually very grateful to Sister Jody for inspiring you to make these wonderful videos of Sai devotees and their experiences with Swami. A couple of key takeaways from your talk for me were there are no shoulds on the spiritual path. Remain open and inquire within. So you've left us with a lot to think about. We hope you come back soon, and we look forward to seeing all of your interviews. So thank you so much. I have a couple of announcements. We have workshops coming at 11 a.m. Right here in Devotion Hall, we have a workshop which is titled To Be One, and this is being facilitated by Brother Ted Henry and Sister Preeti Bhatt. We have a workshop on holistic yoga, and this is in the fitness center, and it's being facilitated by Murthy Manchikanti. We have SSC Gurus with Brother Faiz Muhammad in arts and crafts. We have a workshop on obliging to speak obligingly. This is in Vrindavan, which is in the B loop where Swami's room is located. And this is being facilitated by Sai Santosh Srinivasan and Rushita Navala. We have Psychology, Let's Talk. This is a workshop in the YA Hall, and it's being facilitated by Sai Priya Iyer and Shruti Srinivasan. So these are all the workshops that are happening this morning from 11 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. We also have a couple of quick announcements. If you're leaving either today or tomorrow, please do schedule your luggage pickup. You can do that at the service desk. You can let them know the time that you're planning to leave, and they will be at your cabin to pick up the luggage. This will help us avoid last-minute rush and confusion, so please do check in at the service desk. Cars are also not allowed inside, so if you're leaving tomorrow, your luggage will be transported in golf carts, so please do schedule that. Have your car keys ready for transportation. If you haven't picked up your keys, they are at the service desk. Please do pick them up. Make sure that your cabins are clean and that you're taking all your belongings with you. And finally, if you're able to give a ride to anyone, or if you need a ride back, please do put your name again at the service desk, and they will either provide a ride or will request a ride from you. And finally, we need your help in cleanup tomorrow, cleaning up the cabins and cleaning up the campsite. So if you're available, please do help out. The next piece of the program is a really wonderful introduction to this beautiful conference called the Sai Women's Conference that is happening in our region for the first time ever in the US. And I would like to invite our National Devotional Coordinator, Sister Preeti Bhatt, to give us an overview of this conference.
My loving salutations with Bhajans, so to speak. Sairam, good morning, and so happy to be here. The energy just keeps on building up, and we have more energy coming with this first Sai Women's Conference. May I request the house lights turn down for a short video clip that we're going to watch about this conference? So, as Aparna said, the conference is being hosted right here. We have women from all over the country coming in to be part of this conference. It's historic, and it's going to be held in a very historic building as well. And I invite all of our sisters here to be part of it. Register online. Registration ends on June 10th. And let's go to the video, and then I'll say how you can help out. Video, please.
For the purpose of increasing the recognition use, and then it is the woman who should uphold it, and so there are various organizations of Sri Satya Sai, like Mahila Vibhag, and so many other type of things. It's only when the women get together that the whole nation becomes something.
With any big conference or retreat that takes place, much help is needed. And we do need help from, of course, from our sisters to register and be part of the conference. And we need help from our brothers with some transportation and some other logistics locally to pick up fellow sisters who are flying in from other parts of the country. So there is much help needed. We are also trying to host as many as we can at our homes in the New Jersey area. So those that are from New Jersey, if you have a spare bedroom and you can open up and host somebody, it will also give us a chance to know the other person. So help is needed in hosting with transportation, and we are also looking for some help from brothers with food logistics at the conference. So there is sign-ups available. If you're interested, please see me. We can definitely get you involved. And we look forward to a very exciting, energizing fellowship with our sisters here. Thanks for this opportunity. Jai Sairam.